I have the honor of introducing Dr. Rosenfeld. Grew up in Encino, California, and attended the University of California in Berkeley. He moved to Israel and has since been a science educator of great renown at the Weizmann Institute of Science here in Israel for the last 2 decades. Dr. Rosenfeld has made a name for himself by spearheading several innovative educational projects which often incorporate cutting-edge technology, like what we have here. He's directed an interactive science museum in California, designed award-winning educational software, developed curricula, and with workshops across the globe and training sessions here at home, he has helped equip hundreds of science teachers with cutting-edge pedagogical techniques. From a personal standpoint, it's a privilege to introduce such an educational innovator as I am trying to follow in his footsteps by using Bible Rap as a platform for Jewish education. So it's my honor to introduce Dr. Rosenfeld.
Woo! Sherman, your RE is what?
On what?
Your RE's?
I'm Ari's, well, let's see. I would call it friend-in-law.
Friend-in-law.
Or I don't know how you call it, because my son, Ellie, is best friends with Ari. They grew up
I see, okay. So you guys know Ari from our steering committee, right?
Yeah.
We did the workshop in PR, so this is Ari's friend-in-law.
Right.
So anyway.
And actually, he's almost like a son.
Okay,
He's been in our house so much, we've had a great time.
We've heard a lot about you since we started planting this.
Well, it's a really great pleasure to be here, and it's really kind of closing a circle in a way, or opening a circle, because it was a while ago when I was in Berkeley, when I was very involved in what was called at that time the Jewish Radical Union in 1973, and afterwards we started something called the Radical Jewish Union. After that was the Israel Action Committee, which was spread out around the country. So I've been Berkeley, my wife, and just this last weekend, the people who co-founded the Israel Action Committee were at our house. So sort of coming here, I was thinking this is kind of neat to see you guys, because it's nice to see these. Well, on the one hand, the problems continue, so that's not so nice. But on the other hand, we're here because we're all got something in common, and it's nice to see the new generation. So I guess what I'm here to do is to sort of bring together some creative aspects of education in science education with creative Zionism as what you guys are doing, and I see there's a direct link. And I hope that by the end of this session, which I hope will be very informal, I have lots of things I could say and do, and there'll be some demonstrations and stuff. But I hope that you all feel that you can ask questions and see if the technology or the kind of pedagogy that I'm talking about could be relevant to you. I just will say that it was during my years as a graduate student in Berkeley, when I was going for studying my doctorate in science education, biology and science education, that I was studying this stuff in education, and then we sort of developed it in terms of activism. So there was really a connection between them. And I think the reason it took me so long to finish my doctorate was because I was so involved in things like Soviet Jewry, and Jewish activism and things like that. And it's a funny thing that when I came to Israel in '82, a lot of those techniques sort of flourished and developed into things which went right into the educational system. But in a way, I'm bringing them back here to see how they can be useful to you as well. Let me just start off with a story about the connection between science and Zionism. I think you all know I come from the Weizmann Institute. I've been there since I came to Israel. And you probably all know that Chaim Weizmann was the guy who started the Weizmann Institute. And you probably most of you probably know that it was in 1917 when the white paper came about, largely because of Chaim Weizmann. But maybe what you don't know, Balfour. But you might not know about the Balfour Declaration. Sorry, the Balfour Declaration. What did I say?
White paper. Which was 30.
That came around.
That's not good if it came from
the Balfour Declaration, which really gave the Balfour Declaration, which really gave the document that the British were going to give this land, the mandate, to Israel, came about because of a connection with Chaim Weizmann. And the connection with Chaim Weizmann goes back to what I call the Zionist bacterium. Because if it wasn't for that Zionist bacterium, we wouldn't have, I don't think, the Balfour Declaration, and who knows what would have happened. So we have to go back to World War I, when Great Britain was fighting the war, and they ran out of acetone. That's very important in making weapons and stuff. So they went to, Chaim Weizmann was working in the lab, working actually under somebody whose name was Balfour. At that time, he was not in the senior position in the government, but he was working in the British war effort. And they said, look, we know you're involved in science. Is there a way that you can help us get some acetone? And Chaim Weizmann devised a technique whereby a bacterium will take chestnuts and will change and will work it out so that they will, basically, through a metabolic process, develop acetone. He developed this, basically, it's a biotechnology, one of the first biotechnologists. And this biotechnology process ended up helping to give this edge to Great Britain in World War II, creating acetone. And as a result, when Chaim Weizmann came then to Balfour, who by that time was a high official in the Foreign Office, and said, listen, I have this idea, I help you guys out, now help me out, there was something to talk about. So we go back a long way, science and Zionism, down to that. And I will end with a quote also by Chaim Weizmann, which I think will be more on the educational side, but I want to start with that. So I was thinking sort of like how to begin this talk so it's not so boring, and I thought, well, I like to do a lot of science demonstrations. What can I do to sort of bring science to Zionism and to this idea? So I figured there's actually two demonstrations that I know about, and I'll like to share with you that sort of help you to understand the Zionist ethos. And the first actually goes back to somebody we know a lot about, Moshe Rabbeinu. You know that Moshe in the desert, you think about it, he was really the great Zionist leader. You don't think of him like that. You think of him as Moshe Rabbeinu. But he was the one who took everybody out and said, let's go to Israel. And then after they left, of course, they say, no, we want to go back. We have the cucumbers and the watermelons and all that stuff back there. Let's go back to Egypt. And he said, no, we're going to go to Israel. He unfortunately never really made it, but that's also being a Zionist, because we know that a Zionist is somebody who gives some money to somebody else who does, somebody else makes it happen. So it turns out that Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't come to Israel himself, but he was a great impetus. How did Moshe Rabbeinu start his career? When did the big event happen?
The shepherd.
He was a shepherd.
Burning bush.
Burning bush. Can anyone remember what happened with that burning bush? He took his shoes off. Took his shoes off. But I mean,
the bush was not consumed.
The bush was on fire.
Yeah,
the bush was on fire. He basically is walking his merry way. A bush is burning. If the bush was burning, it'd be fine, burn, and it goes on. But he's constantly very interested. The bush kept on burning, and nothing happened to it. And then the child was not consumed. And that's when he said, let me take a look at this wondrous thing. So number one, we know that he had a scientific curiosity because he knows what should be happening. And he says this is not happening. There's a discrepant event here. I'm going to go there. I'm going to see this burning bush. And then of course, the big boss, has this discussion with him. And he says, take off your shoes. This is holy ground. And then from there on, it's all. So I figured, let's go back to that thing, but let's give it a kind of a modern twist. I think that instead of
Sure, don't burn our table up.
Yeah,
as long as it's not consumed.
It's not. I figured that being, and you guys are all very much into the entrepreneurial thing. So you all know the entrepreneurship and everything today, and what's going on in Israel today is all connected to the shekel.
Dollar.
The dollar, it's a shekel here, and the stock market is going great. Everybody's into this stuff, and if you take a look at Haaretz, the good magazine, right, the daily newspaper. What is Haaretz? It's a few pieces of paper over here about the news and international, local news, and a huge thing called the marker. You know what the marker is? The marker is all about this stuff, about investing in it. So I was thinking, is there some way that we can take this money and instead of the bush in an ukal, maybe a shekel in an ukal? Because that's what people really want now. They want to be able to burn their money but still have it. So I'm going to show you how we can burn this and still have it.